Thank you so much, Amina. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. There we go. We got to get some energy in this room. I know it's day 2 already. Look, we're on this panel talking about artificial intelligence. But I had the privilege last year of moderating a very similar panel on AI. And I think there's one key difference from last year. Last year, conversations about AI still had a slightly optional feeling to them. You know, the thesis was that we need to experiment with this technology, we need to brainstorm ideas for adoption, we need to pilot this technology, we need to play around with it. But I think 12 months on, we are at a very, very different moment with how we think about AI. I think fundamentally, we are all under pressure when we think about AI. You know, companies are under pressure to innovate faster, regulators are under pressure to catch up, countries are under pressure to define a national AI strategy and to not fall behind in this race. And moderators like me are under pressure to avoid generic buzzwords and make conversations like this much more meaningful and concrete. So that is what I'm going to try to do today with this wonderful panel of 5 true trailblazers that we have. Just to start off with, very, very quickly, I'm going to start with Vladimir on my side there. I'd love if everyone could share just one concrete thing that they think is a misconception about AI. You know, AI is thrown around in so many different ways and so many different buzzwords. What is one thing you think, Vladimir, that people misunderstand when they talk about AI?
But I think that personally the biggest misconception or the misunderstanding is that it will cut jobs, that it, simply make no use of the humans rather than be replaced and make them obsolete. I think this is the biggest, actually, delusion that we have. Like any industrial revolution, and I see it as an industrial revolution, the next one, it will, of course, change a lot of things. Some things will be gone, but even more will be coming. And I think this is actually the thing that majority of people, unfortunately, do not yet see.
Yeah. Annette, I'm going to ask the same. I'm going to go around the panel with the same question. What do you think is the biggest misconception when it comes to AI, Annette?
Biggest misconception is that we think AI will solve everything for us. No. We heard many times, you said don't use buzzwords, but yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Because when you see, for example, you and me sit on the same task, have the same tool. One of us needs to be more successful, right? Based on inputs, based on your previous knowledge, etc., if you have that better than myself, you will be more successful. So I think that the main misconception is that first one is that it will do things for us. No, it will not. If you have navigation to make it plastic before AI in the city, yeah, you need to know where the street is and how navigation works to help you. And the second misconception, I think, is that, security part. We are very easy on giving a lot of things, easy use of applications of AI. I think we must take care more of the security of it.
Anino, any misconceptions about AI?
Yes, I think that we're still thinking of AI as this external thing that is created by innovators and tech companies. AI to serve the world is actually something that is co-created by all of us, and therefore we all must be implicated in how AI is developed and how it's shaped.
Yeah.
I share Vladimir and Srđan's. First one, what Vladimir said, the misconception that AI has net negative impact of jobs, by far the biggest frustration I feel about the discussions, and the second is security.
Yeah. And we've set the stage, so I want to bring you in, Annette, after your wonderful opening to the session. You're talking about co-creating AI and making sure that we have kind of an inclusive environment when we talk about the rules that are set around AI. Annette, from your perspective, sitting at Google, do you feel like most companies have this as a priority? And when you might advocate for this within Google, what is the reception you get to that amongst corporate leaders who are obviously very focused, I'm sure as they must be, on innovation and on growth and on profit?
Well, I think that's what I mentioned at the beginning with the digital skills part. Like obviously we understand that we are privileged being in a company that develops and is at the forefront of the development, but we definitely invest in skilling and understand that skilling means like literacy. AI literacy is absolutely fundamental. and means, and I think our products and what we offer the world is literacy, is making knowledge available to everyone. So we definitely understand this is a participatory, inclusive effort.
Yeah, yeah. And Anino, I want to bring you in here, and obviously, please feel free to jump in, anyone, at any point. You've spent a lot of time advocating for, again, this inclusive approach to building AI. You help boards work through different AI challenges that they have. How do you ensure that? How do you make sure that all the right voices are in the room, but not just that they're in the room, they're actually heard, incorporated to the very execution part of your projects?
The thing is, first of all, understanding what AI is about, right? And what is AI about? It is about solving problems. And very often people are looking at AI as just, what is that tool and how can I use it? But the first thing is there to solve problems, and problems for not just people in the workforce, but also for mankind. So that's the first thing. So for organizations we start off from what is the problem you're trying to solve, rather than just looking at what are the tools, and can we just learn these tools? The important and critical thing for me is this inclusive aspect that Annette has talked about. AI is at the verge, we are at the beginning. I mean, much as it seems as if it's advanced, it's not. We are actually at the beginning of the AI revolution, which is moving very fast. The way it is shaping the workforce, the way it is shaping returns, the way it is shaping the ways in which we interact with each other, this is the very beginning. And this is the time where we need to make sure that we're fully implicated in how it's developed. So for organizations, right, the first thing is we've seen a lot of organizations, especially service ones, banks, and consulting companies who have let go a lot of staff, right? Tech companies, and it's scary. It is scary, however, and Annette has talked about and has alluded to that, but the thing we must be looking at is how are we going to make sure that the organizations, right, that serve customers and serve humanity are making sure that they are productive. One thing that we say, actually, I know that this is probably slightly controversial, Annette, is that if you are getting rid of huge amounts of staff today, how are you sure that you have the talent that you need for the future? Are you going to get to a stage in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time and you have gotten rid of the people who are going to be those who are driving and using the technology? That's one. The second thing is that we need to build inclusive economies. A lot of the issues that we see in today's world are based on the fact that we haven't built inclusive economies. And inclusive economies means having women in the workforce. We've seen the numbers. Trillions will be added to the economy if we have women in the workforce, and technology is key. And then, of course, we have, my last point is on the intergenerational gap as well, with the young people being the main users of AI. As leaders, many of us in here, do we understand, right, what that means and how that is going to drive the direction of our businesses and economies? Just really, this now is a time where we should be ahead of this thing, planning it, and not be scared about it and let AI drive us. Organizations should be driving the use and adoption of AI.
Yeah. You mentioned 3 or 4 very important challenges. I just want to pick up on one of them, this idea of job displacement. I remember thinking about AI a few years ago. What I was told was that the jobs that AI will replace are very automatable jobs, right? And that if you worked hard and you went to university and you got a 4-year degree and you learned to code and you were a white-collar professional, you were a lawyer, you were safe. And in the last 2 years, all the products that we've seen have challenged that assumption, right? Some of the most easily automatable jobs are perhaps the coding jobs themselves, are perhaps a lot of that knowledge work job that lawyers and accountants do. So I want to ask the panel, what is your view on this idea of job displacement? And do you have a view on which jobs are safer now and which jobs are more at risk?
Happy to go first. So as an economist, I will give the micro view. And I hope others will answer the micro part. The macro view is plain simple, and we don't have to look into the future. We just have to go see into the past. Luckily for all of us, the last industrial revolution or the last tech revolution is in our lifespan. For I think most of us here in the room. So what happens? Technology grows productivity. Productivity grows income, and that means people have more money to spend, and there are entrepreneurs out there who find way to get the money of those who benefited in higher income through those technologies. And that's what creates jobs. And if you go back 200 years, you will see that the past 4 industrial revolutions have created about 2.6 billion jobs that we have today in the economy. So the question is, at a macro level, not what will be the impact. The impact is obvious. More productivity means more income, means more jobs. Now, from a micro level, what will be the jobs that get created? What are the jobs at risk? That's at the micro level, to me, it's $1 billion question because it means it's a business decision, that, thinking about, what will be the opportunity? What we can say maybe at a meso level, and that's where I'll stop. You look at sectors and you think, okay, with more productivity, look at sectors of the economy, what are the ones that are going to grow if people in general have more money? So sectors like healthcare, sectors like personal entertainment, sectors like tourism, those are almost certain to grow because of people having more income. So then you have sectors that are almost certain to decline because, like ICT, and because of the software engineers being replaced by AI. And then for the rest in the middle, that those ones are hard to predict. And that's when you get to the micro level, which I'll pass on to somebody else.
Which sort of intelligence is hardest for AI to learn? Social one. Absolutely. What will be irreplaceable or hardest to replace? Connections, relations. When you speak to the people, that relationship management, let's say, social intelligence, about approaching people, about connecting with people, about influence on people, I think will be safe for a long time. So basically the jobs who are related to that, I think they will be safe for some time. And also they can use AI to be even more efficient in what they do, to boost up what they have as a talent.
Yeah. I mean, large language models can't make for good panelists, right? That takes social intelligence. But maybe that's something we can toy with next year. What's that?
You heard Oliver.
Well, exactly.
He said he'll send
His AI agent.
If you give us, for example, when you prepare the panelists with some kind of the topics, questions, etc., we can take AI and prepare ourselves, repeat it as many times as needed, and reproduce it. But if we go like this, that switch the question, skip the questions from one pass for another, etc., I think it's different. It's much more limited. And not to mention if I want to sell you something, it's about social intelligence.
Yeah. And Annette, do you agree with that? From a tech company perspective, if you were hiring more people into your team, what skills are you looking for?
I'm not hiring more people. That's not the case. So maybe one general comment is, I think what line I really like is to say we won't be replaced by AI, but by people and by those who use AI better than you. And I think that's the core. Like we all have to get to work with AI. It's the future. It's here. We have to use it. We have to understand it. We have to work with it. Even if you feel okay, this is. If you have like your challenges and your hesitations, and this is exactly the reason why I think the younger generation has an easier time, and it's a chance to leapfrog, as I mentioned, but it's for all of us a challenge. In a company like Google, coding, indeed, you don't need to code any longer. Like at least not, you don't have to be a cybersecurity you don't need to understand code in order to understand cybersecurity attacks any longer. You have to. We all use AI heavily in the company, which means then, of course, like even in my team, like briefings and those things that I used to do when I started my job, that's done by AI. Well, who needs to translate things and who is editing speeches or like, of course, some part of it is still manual, but more generally, you have your assistants around you. It is really, the world is changing very fast, so we better get on our toes and understand how to use this tool very well. And hence, I think, indeed, to my earlier point, and I have made it already twice, AI literacy is key. AI digital skilling is key, and for us, it's important to educate, to offer digital skills trainings and AI skills trainings, and yeah, it's a process that we are all in together. Mm-hmm. And obviously, there are many challenges to it that we have to negotiate and figure out, and the security. I think the mythos, what happened a couple of weeks ago, all told us, oh, okay, that's much faster than we thought. So how can we all work together in order to make sure we are faster developing or using AI to defend ourselves than the attackers are in attacking us. So it really is something that we are all in together and have to work together in partnership.
Yeah. Vladimir?
Yeah, starting from the micro level and thinking about the industrial revolutions. So 200 years ago, the railway came on a bigger scale. It changed tremendously the things. Then came the electricity on a large scale. 100 years ago, it changed the things now. Today is the AI, and I think that numerous jobs will simply evolve with the support and the AI literacy to be performed in a simply different way. So if I would say that it's a safe harbor, you can say maybe plumbing is the safe harbor. So this kind of manual work where you really need physical skills would be the safe harbor. But in a micro context and looking into my area of work and responsibilities and insurance, we do not, first of all, release the IT people, but we upskill them, we create new capabilities within the same resource pool. And these people are actually then more effective, they're more satisfied, and they are able to do much broader set of things. And they are then spearheading this kind of a mindset within the organization. This helped us a lot in the SE to scale and really to become a sort of a front runner in these terms, in the insurance business. Testing. I mean, automatic testing is for the decades already in place, but it did not replace the need for people who are understanding what is the outcome. So this is also something that is evolving continuously. Mm. Where we see the major change is and it was mentioned in the previous panel, the claims. So this is the area where you see the tremendous impact. Because you're able to do the things faster. The people who are skilled are not frustrated because they're spending like half an hour to do a certain job, to read, 10 tons of paper or documents, but rather they are focusing on really the critical cases where their skills, understanding, and knowledge is really required to support the customers. And what we at the end receive is the satisfied customer that is served like 10 times faster than before, and we have the satisfied employees that are really then finding themselves in the purpose much better and much more in the organization than it was in the past.
Yeah. And, a few times we've heard people mention this parallel of the Industrial Revolution. I just want to provide kind of an alternative to that or push back on that hypothesis, right, just for the sake of argument. Because you might say, we had the Industrial Revolution, we had certain kinds of jobs, they went away, we evolved, we found new jobs, and life went on. Right? But the counter to that might be simply that in the Industrial Revolution, all the technologies we had were single use. Right? You invented the printing press or something, and then scribes were out of a job, right? Or you invented the steam engine, and then people who might have been transporting goods and services in other ways, they're out of a job. But it's very localized, it's very specific, right? Now we have a multi-use case intelligence, right? You have a $10 or $20 a month subscription to a model that can do, by and large, most kinds of knowledge work to a reasonably good standard, right? That is passing the law bar, that is doing accounting work, that is doing, in some cases, really advanced, even PhD level research we've heard, right? I want to, take this line and just ask a slightly different question, which is, what is the worst case of this, right? Let's say we're not correct, and let's say this isn't like the Industrial Revolution, that we see much more massive job displacement. I think all of us hear very scary scenarios about what that looks like. What do you think is the realistic worst case scenario of where this could take us?
I'd like to actually answer this question because it was something which was on my mind where my colleague was talking about the macro case. The macro case that is not the worst case scenario. This is a scenario that innovators themselves have talked about, that people are scared of, but not really being articulated. I sat in Davos in a room with Darius Amodei, the co-founder of Anthropic, and he said this. He said, this industrial revolution is going to lead to a displacement in jobs in the way that previous ones have not. And I think that this is a topic that governments and regulators need to know about. On the micro level, when it comes to organizations, they are interested in, clearly, profit-making, right? Their interest is not on what the effect is on the economy, on jobs. And this is where we need to have governments working closer with the private sector on this issue. Private sector will, shall we say, they will optimize, right, in terms of their objectives. A private sector business is not their business to create jobs. Their business is to make profits. And if in making profits, you create jobs, right, and more jobs, that's perfect. And if you don't, that's fine. That is the way capitalism works. However, the innovators have told us this, that this time it is different. And that, I think, is where we need to, as regulators or as governments, we need to look at how the structure of jobs in the economy will change.
We're going into the question that at least two of us on the panel said is the question that is the biggest misconception. So I'll say just one thing. So I cannot answer the question from the way you framed it, reframed it. I cannot think of an alternative scenario than what the thought of logic I shared earlier leads me to. However, there is a point to be made that has been consistent across all the previous four industrial revolutions and will be in this one, which is the point of inclusion. If you look at the past 200 years, many have benefited, but some have not. Within a country that's very advanced, some have not benefited. And across the world, some countries are still, sadly, not at too much of a different level of GDP per capita than 200 years ago. So that's a problem that could become even worse with this new industrial revolution because the profits or the gains keep getting centralized, keep getting to go into fewer and fewer companies, into fewer and fewer individuals who own those companies. That's an issue that needs to be tackled within a country and I used to be a development economist, at the global stage for the countries that are going to be furthest behind. So those are, to me, the real questions that, that would need to be answered.
Yeah.
Well, I think it will generally help the people. Same like Industrial Revolution, same like electricity, same some other things. What will happen? Will everybody lose their jobs? Not, of course. But it will change. Sometimes when you go back to past, people were working 12 hours a day, 6 days or 7 days a week. I mean, there are still in some kind of our industries people who work that much, but it was different. Now, I think the future is pretty bright. People will work 3.5 days maximum in the week. I'm speaking about average employee. They will not have some problems with some diseases, some illness like now. You know, now For example, we have a lot of people dying from cancer, for example. Maybe 200 years ago, people were dying almost every second who gets the flu, who gets, AI development will develop various branches, not just that we make presentation better or to make PhD better or whatever. So I think it will generally help the people to live better, to work less, to work more productive. And I think it's a very good thing. The only thing that we need to take care, I know I'm maybe boring with that, but it's a security. To be very prudent there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it's a great time in front of us. For the new generations, they will live more happily. And I also fully agree with Borko, yes, probably not all nations, all countries, all industries will use it to the same extent. So,
yeah.
Like everything.
And, you've mentioned security twice, so I want to ask you more about that, which is what is the security risk exactly? And what do you think businesses, do you think regulators are doing enough to catch up to the reality of that security risk?
Yes, but we need to have in mind that we have areas which are more regulated, like the area where I'm coming from, but you also have some areas which are less regulated. But nevertheless, in all areas, developers and companies that have a, let's say, usage of AI in huge extent, they need to take care. First, because on a tax on them. Secondly, because of their customers. If I'm using your app, whatever it is, and I get, attacked, and I have severe damage, it damages your reputation also. Not to mention potential legal disputes, etc. It creates uncertainty. It creates fear for the future users to use that properly. So we must invest more in that. We must be more careful in that. And there are, different sides of the story. For example, bankers are, I think, the last that will use it fully. Not because of the regulators. Regulators are doing their job very, very good on that. But because we are, in our DNA, is what if we try something and things go wrong? And we don't think, what if we don't try? No. But also there are other industries which are totally opposite. Oh, this is experimental, but let's use it to full extent because we want more customers from our competition. So to make the story short, I think we should invest more in that. It's not something, that we cannot solve.
Yeah, and I want to pose a version of that question to you, Annette, because I'm sure generally speaking, people working in tech are optimistic about this technology. But I wonder, at Google, do you have conversations about what role the company could play if some of these worst case scenarios do actually happen?
So maybe just there are so many angles to address to get to this conversation from. There's one angle that we have now discussed is what happens to the workforce. And I think it is obvious at the moment that we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. They're different, if you listen to us, if you listen to all the big thought leaders on the topic have different ideas on how it could happen. Research is emerging. We are at the beginning of a huge development. We don't know. We have to better understand what's happening. We have to spend more money in research. We really have to dig in and be more creative of what's going to happen. Is anyone out there who has a good answer on the question what's going to happen to our workforce, or even what do I recommend my daughter to study in a couple of years from now? Like, what's a safe place to go? Definitely not law. I studied law. I wouldn't recommend anyone to study law today because this seems to be easily replaceable, honestly. Everything is changing, and it's important to realize we're at the beginning of a huge transformation that we all have to, and indeed, this is the reason why we have why the conversation like these are important. We have to negotiate look at the challenges, look at what's at the table, what's at stake. But I would also then pivot back to your question about security. If we only look at the security topic and constantly focus on security, and we have seen indeed a couple of weeks ago with the Mythos challenge, so to say, what's at stake and what can happen if we don't focus on this topic, and everyone is focusing on this. But it's the opportunity on healthcare, the possibilities through AI, people that have been out there. There was no medicine, not even an idea around for many of the health issues a couple of years ago, and now you have drugs that are curing even diseases that are have only a few people compared to the global population impacted. So there is so much opportunity in AI on how to fight climate change. It's also an energy issue, of course, that we have on how to fight, on how to go about drug discovery, how to fight diseases. There's so much opportunity. And coming out of Europe, to be honest, and in the center of a continent that is constantly only discussing risks, I think we are missing out of the opportunities. And if we are constantly only focusing on the risk side of the house, we are not seeing what's happening on the bright side and on the good side that is indeed changing lives. And I don't want to sound too positive or optimistic, but I think it's very important to see that there's so much good work happening out there, and for relevant work for those who are underprivileged for many reasons, that it's important to realize this. And then maybe let me close on the opportunity side, because I think it's underestimated, under-discussed, and if we are not seeing what's possible, maybe another example. We are seeing researchers fleeing Europe because research is not possible, because Europe has looked for ages only at the risks, not at the opportunities. So those good people are moving either to Asia or to the US to do their research. Do we really want that? Do we really want to kick out everyone because we are having a focus on the risks and not on the opportunities? The risk side is important, very important to address. And this is what we are doing day in, day out. But I think it's also important to look at what's possible, and what's possible for education, for healthcare, for every other big problem that there is out there. And you have definitely a better option to fight all those issues with AI than without.
Yeah, I'm just going to go to you, Vladimir, for your perspective quickly before jumping to the next topic.
I would like to go back to the previous question where you started. It's an apocalyptic scenario that you mentioned a bit. And if you look back into the history, beginning of the 19th century, there was this Luddite movement that people were destroying machines, like textile workers and so on. So it reminds me a bit about on that. But being the person with a positive perspective towards life in general, this is in my DNA, I really believe that this will evolve and it will bring, as you mentioned, enormous field of opportunities for us as a society. We've seen this now going to the specific industry and our use cases, that really the jobs and the roles are evolving. They're changing, and people understand this, and they're adopting this, because they see again the opportunity. And if you think about the insurance business, there's certain areas where you can think about the AI usage, where really you can bring products and services to the customers much faster, more prone and more towards their needs and actually what they would really like to have, and to service them in a real-time manner. And this is exactly something that makes a difference. And if you're like we did, on top of everything that is happening end-to-end, on top of the process, understanding the technology, AI technology, what does it do, and not leaving it, to do something, then you are having everything at your own hands. And this is what, in my experience, regulators really want to see. They want to see that you are steering the things end-to-end, and and not that somebody else does something for a financial services institution. And then the same goes for the security. If you're at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of the process, you are able then to know what is the outcome and to follow any risks that might happen in between. Developers are able to better code together with the Claude or whatever, it doesn't matter, solution, the LLM. And the outcomes are then checked and all the potential gaps are immediately covered. So the end result is, from the security perspective, much better. So the risks are lower or immediately mitigated even before the end delivery, so to say. And I personally think that the AI is not a major threat to the security. It will be maybe only accelerating certain known things. I think that a much bigger threat in the future comes from post-quantum cryptography. This is where everything will break what we know today.
Yeah.
This is something that we should honestly prepare much more than the security challenges of the AI, because this is a known field that we work with, not the unknown.
Yeah. You know, both of you were talking about the opportunities from this, but I think one point I want to take it back to is that the opportunities and all the good that we get from AI might be unevenly distributed, right? We, you know, talk about this sitting in Europe. You know, all of us can afford a Claude, you know, or ChatGPT subscription, but if you think about the world at large, the 8.5 billion people, 1.8 billion people have no access to, or reliable access to the internet, 2.6 billion have no reliable access to electricity, right? It can be very easy, I think, to talk about the growth of large language models, but specifically talk about inclusion, you know, your perspective on inclusion, Borko, your background as a development economist. How do we make sure that the gains that we've realized from AI are shared somewhat more evenly across the spectrum, globally?
Well, this is certainly, I just came back from the IMF World Bank meetings where I was asked by the World Bank to speak on women's economic inclusion, and this was some of the topics, and that is a key, one of the 5 key strategies. And this is really key, you know, at this point in time, because we have the opportunity now at the early stages. But by the way, Annette, your point on opportunities made me smile, because I was thinking of opportunities from a personal perspective. This is a digression. That is to say that right now, when you go into the chatbot, you have to try and be creative, right, about your prompt. I am looking forward to the time where I have this beautiful UX screen, right? And this bit is about creating text, this is about articles, this is about research. And so, I mean, we're going to get there very quickly, right? So we are at the early stages. So the opportunities individually are vast. I'll not talk about economies and countries, but right now we need to build inclusion, and this is the reason why I'm in the field which I am. That is to say that inclusion that we've talked about has been trying to redesign systems that were built right in the early industrial age when women were not really in the workforce. Now, we need to look at the future and we need to build inclusive systems now. If we look at the data, the development data on development and the issues, right? If you disaggregate them by gender, by age, what we'll find is that the people who are the poorest tend to be women. The people who are victims of violence tend to be women. The people who have less income tend to be women, right? We need to make sure that we are designing our systems right now to be inclusive of women, inclusive of children. Online harms, harassment, all of these things need to be designed in now. So yes, we have a massive technology. I'm excited about it. We train and get people to use AI, but we also need to design in those systems right now that will make it inclusive for everybody.
In my mind, not in my mind, if you look at the track record over the past decades of economic development, it's clear that the one deciding factor is the country itself. Yes, I was 10 years at the World Bank, but institutions like the World Bank and the donor community more broadly, or philanthropy, they play the auxiliary role. They are there in the absence of the first driver being there. There is no World Bank in South Korea. There is no World Bank in the UAE. There is no World Bank in Poland anymore. Why? Because those countries did something to capture the opportunities that come from all the knowledge and all the innovation that the world creates. And that's why South Korea is where it is, and North Korea is where it is. That's where Thailand is where it is, and that's where Laos nearby is underdeveloped relative to Thailand where it is, and a million examples, unfortunately, throughout the world of underdeveloped. So governments are the ones, and business leaders are the ones who will make the difference. Everybody else is playing, as we like to call in management consulting, the 20%. The 80% is in one place.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about the EU very quickly. I mean, we're sitting in Europe right now. Hopefully by 2028, we're sitting in the EU. You know, you named some of these countries who took advantage of these opportunities, and I realize in Europe, we have a lot of Europe bashing. We love Europe bashing. We're talking about how, you know, we're not doing enough and we're falling behind. So I just want to ask the panel, and I know we only have about 3 minutes left, so very quickly, each of the participants, what is one, you know, concrete thing, if you could wave a magic wand and you could make the European Union do something on AI, anything, what's one concrete thing you would make it do that you think would have the biggest impact for European growth, innovation, competitiveness, regulation, any aspect of it?
It's not the EU. Estonia is in the EU, and it is where it is today in terms of tech adoption. Germany is in the EU, and a few months ago, they started a third attempt to remove fax machine from the health sector of Bavaria. It's not the EU.
Yeah. Anyone else? What's one concrete thing we can do about this?
Maybe to help what you discussed before, inclusion. I mean, it's maybe utopistic idea, because it's very hard to expect from rich country to give their resources, their profits to some less richer countries, like you said, who cannot afford, I'm banalizing ChatGPT subscription or whatever. But generally, yeah, that is what about inclusion is. And also to educate people, because you can give some money or some aid or whatever to anybody if you don't have their buy-in to use it, it's useless.
Yeah. Annette?
The honest answer is deregulation. I have to say, Europe has regulated AI in a way that doesn't allow for innovation and economic growth. You see Europe is falling behind, and yes, I think the Euro bashing is actually legitimate in many ways, and we are by far, not only the tech companies are criticizing, but all small company out there. There's no single market. We are 2 years into the Draghi report. Nothing has happened. The insights that I have generated have not been realized. So I think, to be very provocative, this is something that needs to happen. Like smarter regulation, more courage. Look at Ukraine. More courage, more crisis sensitivity. It's a moment in time that you have to grasp. Don't kick your researchers out because you don't fund them good enough. Keep them, encourage them, have a bit more courage to let it happen, and think bolder. I think this is what I would recommend Europe to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to use 20 seconds. Make an investment fund, like for example, the Emirates government did. And let the companies or whomever else apply for the funding and supporting, let's say, the deployment and really the development of the use cases, and build a sort of a cookbook that will help companies or the persons, whatever, businesses, to really adopt it in the right way. Because this is one of the major reasons, at least what I was able to understand, why we are not successful. Because we try to do everything and nothing, and we have an illusion that it's a kind of a Harry Potter magic that will solve all the problems. And this is exactly where we see the failures.
Yeah. And last but not least, Anino.
Just very quickly, clearly there's a tension between innovation and governance and regulation. But there isn't any industry that exists that is successful that doesn't have regulation. So I think that what we need to at this stage is a closer cooperation between the private sector innovators and the government. The two must go hand in one. One isn't superior to another. We need both of them. This is this is innovation that is fundamentally going to change the way the world works, the structure of society, the structures of economy, and the only way that we can make sure it's beneficial and inclusive for all is to have closer cooperation between innovators and the governments.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think this is a great example of a panel on AI well done, as you walk away with many more questions than with answers. I can see hands up, so we'll take maybe 2 questions quickly, if that's okay, if we're not running too late on time. Biljana, and then the lady in the back.
Well, I'm not going to ask a question. I'm just going to bring something that we talked about here today. And I think first, I don't think I can be accused of not being optimistic. I think, putting together this conference was a mad thing, and you had to be a real optimist to believe that all these people are going to come here. Oops, sorry. So we had John Jovanović here yesterday and the day before yesterday. So John Jovanović is CEO of US Exim Bank, Export-Import Bank, direct Senate appointment, very close to current administration. I mean, to me, the interesting thing was that what he said to Montenegrin Prime Minister was that almost, one of his potentially bigger advantages is that for Montenegro, it might be easier to rewrite social contract if it needs to be rewritten than for a bigger economies. Because his view was that within next 12 to 18 months, social contract will have to be rewritten. And, going back to history, anything under 15% unemployment results in breakdowns. That history tells us that also. So I don't want to sound gloomy, but for systems here, I think, of course, we should be absolutely on the top of this. We should be using it. We should be using it in education. I think Montenegrin government is now looking to work with Estonian government, but we should also think about how do we make sure that we preserve social cohesion, because losing social cohesion is sort of hugely risky. And I think in terms of risky scenarios, that's plausibly quite a risky one, sort of to be seen in some systems.
Yeah, it's a very important thing that we didn't mention. I think we'll take this one question very, very quickly. And then
I will try to be very quick. It's not a question, it's a comment again. So just to introduce myself, I'm Valentina Taseva. I own a company which is 30 years old. And the name of the company is Emos Education. We are the biggest ICT training and AI training center in the region. Just to give some context, I'm AI enthusiast from 2019. I do apologize. Only last and this year we have trained 15,000, more than 50,000 people. We are Microsoft partner, AWS partner, and just in the process of becoming Anthropic Cloud training service partner as well. And I just wanted to share some data that I just got. 88% of organizations use AI, but only 6% are high performance. Only 6%. This is 1 week old data. 64 lack a clear strategy. 45 cite skills gap as a primary barrier. And I really agree with this. And just to say, in terms of cookbook, by the way, I agree with most of the things being said here. What I don't agree really is that ICT will die, because what we can see is that AI drives a lot of digitalization. So companies will be much more, just let me in 2 words, companies will be very productive if they keep working on 5 pillars. So the first one is AI related.
I feel like we might have to say this for next year. The 5 pillars, we'll discuss it. That'll be the topic of the panel. I'm so sorry. So I see that we're just running out of time. Can we just give a huge round of applause to our wonderful panel, please?